Welcome to EDU World Space.
We are asked to find critical values or z-values for each of the 5 situations that they've given. The first situation is an alpha level of 0.1 in a two-tailed test. So first of all, I'm going to draw this out so you can see what they're trying to tell us. A two-tailed test means that our critical region is going to be split between the left and the right tails. So these two regions combined should add up to 0.1, or you could think of that as 10%. So that means we're going to need 5% on each side. And our goal with looking up values in the table is to find where this cutoff point right here is. So what z value gives us this cutoff point? Well, this cutoff point would be the 95% mark. So this area adds up to 95% because whenever you look up values in the table, it tells you what percent is, I'll draw a new graph so you can see it better. So if this is the 5% on the right, the value in the table tells you what percent of the normal curve is represented by what I just shaded in. So we are looking for 95% in the Z table. So we're going to look for a number somewhere in this chart that is as close to 0.9500 as possible because 95 would be 95%. As it turns out, that is going to be at right in between 1.64 and 1.65. So the way you read this chart is you're going to find the whole number and the first decimal over here on the left. So 1.6 will be somewhere in here. And then you're going to go across to the second decimal. So when we ended up with 1.64, that means the number would have been right here. And if we had 0.05 right here, then right here would have been the other number. So when we look this up, we find 0.9495 right here at the entry with 1.64. And then right next to it at the entry with 1.65, we find 0.9505. Now, this number that we were looking for right here is exactly halfway between these two entries. This is pretty rare that this happens, but it does happen. And so technically our answer would be exactly halfway in between 1.64 and 1.65. So halfway in between would be 1.645. Most people will go ahead and round this, and I would also suggest to just round this up to 1.65. It can't hurt to give a more generous estimate of your z-value, so I would put the answer as 1.65, but 1.645 would also work. So that's this first one. Now I'll go ahead and erase all of this for the next part. So the next part asks us to find an alpha level of 0.01 in a right-tailed test. All right, so drawing that out would look something more like this, where the right tail is the only one that we are considering. And again, our goal is to find where this cutoff point is for our z-value is, for what our z-value is. And the chart is going to tell us the area over here in red. So we need to find what the area leading up to that critical value would be. So we know that with an alpha level of 0.01, that this area would be 0.01, or in other words, 1%, which means that this would be 99%. So this time we're going to be looking for something in the chart that gives us 0.9900. Go ahead and erase this real quick. So this one in the chart is going to appear at 2.33. So we'll be looking for 2.3 on this axis and a final digit of 3, which would be this one here for the other axis. So where these two meet will turn out to be 0.9901, and that is the closest number to 0.9900 that we can get. So that's the number we'll use. So part B, the Z value is 2.33. All right, moving on to the next one. They ask us for part C to do an alpha level of 0.005, and that will be for a left-tailed test. So drawing that one out will look more like this. A left-tailed test will be on this side this time, and our alpha level was 0.005. And since the chart tells us what the area to the left is, we don't have to compare to the area on the other side like before, because we're only concerned with the area to the left. So this time we'll be looking for 0.005 in the chart. And they do go out to 4 decimals, so just to not cause yourself confusion, you might want to just add in that extra decimal. So you're looking for 0.0050, and this will once again be exactly in between two different numbers. So at 2.57, or rather this will be in the first half of the chart, so it'll be negative 2.57. The chart looks exactly the same except for the numbers are negative on the two axes. So I will still just use this chart to show you. It'll be at 2.5 right here and 0.07 over here. Where these two meet will be 0.00, and let's see, this one was 2.57 and 2.58. So this one should be 0.049, and the other one right next to it would be 0.0051. And again, these two are equally far apart from our target of 0.005. So we will average our two results. So it was between 0.07 and 0.08. Halfway in between those will be 2.575. Again, this will be a negative z value this time. Any left-tailed test will always be a negative z value. And once again, I would round this up to 2.58 but 2.575 is perfectly fine. All right, finally moving on to part D. We'll be doing a left-tailed test again, and this time our alpha value is 0.01. So for that one, we will go back to green here. So our bell curve will look something like this with a left tail area of 0.01. Once again, since the graph tells us, or rather the chart tells us what is to the left of our cutoff point, our critical value, we will not need to subtract this from 1. We can just look for 0.01 in the chart. And again, I'll just add in the extra 2 decimals to avoid confusion. So we're looking for 0.0100, and it turns out that at negative 2.3, so that's going to be here again, and 0.03, so it's actually the same as what we got in part B, except for negative. So here you will find the value of 0.0099, and that is as close as we can get to 0.01. So this answer will be negative 2.33. Again, when you look at the first half of the chart, these will actually show you the negative values down here and up here. All right. So that is part D. And you'll notice that part B and part D did give you the same alpha level in the question. They both asked for 0.01. The only difference is that one was a right tail test and one was a left tail test. So it makes sense that they're the same number. It's just one is positive and one is negative. All right, our final question to work out is going to be alpha level of 0.05 in a right-tailed test. So this one will be a right tail, so this area will be 0.05. Since the chart asks us to find the area to the left of the critical value, we will be looking up this area in the chart, and this will be 95% or 0.9500. And you may recognize this from part A. This will once again this will actually be exactly the same as part A. It'll be right in between 1.64 and 1.65. And this one was a 0.9495 right here and a 0.9505 right here. So once again, since they're exactly the same distance apart from 0.95, we'll take the average and round up to get Z equals 1.65. Comparing this to what they asked for in part A, they gave us double the alpha value, but since it was a two-tailed test, we ended up cutting it in half to end up with 0.05.